There was a time when Call of Duty defined gaming with unforgettable campaigns, iconic maps, and packed late-night lobbies. Now it feels like the kind of game I uninstall after 3 matches. Today we're doing something a little different. We're talking about Call of Duty, a franchise that defined an entire generation of gaming. Growing up, it wasn't just a shooter, it was the shooter. But somewhere along the way, it changed. Now we've got celebrity operators, crossover skins that look like they belong in Fortnite, and more fluff than the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. So what happened? How did Call of Duty go from industry defining to something that feels almost unrecognizable? Call of Duty was the first shooter I ever played. World at War is my introduction to the franchise, a fast, cinematic arcade shooter set during World War II, with a multiplayer that felt very different from what the series is now. It also introduced zombies, which would go on to become one of the most beloved game modes in gaming. What made Call of Duty stand out was how it made you feel. It didn't aim for pure realism, it wanted you to feel like the star of a war film. You weren't just another soldier on the battlefield, you were Rambo. You survived impossible odds, you were doing the jobs that no one else could do, and that big cinematic identity is what made Call of Duty special. Now, Call of Duty began as a World War II franchise with its first several games, all focused on the war from different perspectives and fronts. At the time, these games felt grounded and immersive, even if they still leaned into that Hollywood-style action. You were still very much a one-man army, but that was part of the appeal. Then in 2007, Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare changed everything. By moving into a modern setting, the series felt instantly fresh. The campaign was more cinematic, more memorable, and more in tune with the kind of blockbuster storytelling players wanted. Multiplayer also took a huge leap forward, introducing features and ideas that would become staples of the franchise for years to come. Modern Warfare reinvented Call of Duty, and from that point on, the franchise exploded. From 2007 to 2012, Call of Duty was at the top of the world. This was the era of World at War, Modern Warfare 2, Black Ops, Modern Warfare 3, and Black Ops 2. For a lot of players, including myself, this was Call of Duty at its absolute best. The franchise dominated gaming culture. It was everywhere. It had midnight launches, mainstream marketing deals with Mountain Dew and Doritos, and a multiplayer scene that felt impossible to escape. If you owned a console during this time, there's a good chance you were playing Call of Duty. This was also the time that gave us some of the franchise's most iconic maps: Nuketown, Rust, Shipment, Raid, and so many others. But more than that, this was when Call of Duty felt like a social experience. This is where I met some of my first online friends, staying up late in lobbies, hearing people talk trash with awful microphones, and just being a part of the chaos. It was memorable, and you just kind of had to be there. But after that peak, the cracks started to show. From 2013 onward, Call of Duty began chasing trends instead of setting them. Rather than building on what made the series great, it started experimenting in ways that made the franchise feel less and less like itself. This was the stretch of futuristic movement, advanced mobility, and settings that pushed further and further away from the grounded military identity on which the series had built its name on. Games like Advanced Warfare, Black Ops 3, and Infinite Warfare leaned heavily into exosuits, wall running, space combat, and sci-fi tech. And while those ideas aren't bad on paper, they didn't feel like Call of Duty. It felt like the franchise was having an identity crisis. Every year it seemed unsure of what kind of game it wanted to be: a gritty military shooter, or a sci-fi arena shooter, a Titanfall competitor, or something else entirely. That confusion wore down players. People got tired of the future setting, tired of the constant experimentation, and tired of feeling like Call of Duty was trying to imitate other games instead of leading the genre. Eventually, after enough backlash, Activision tried to pull things back, returning to World War II. But by then, the problem was bigger than just the setting. The reason modern Call of Duty feels worse isn't just because the setting changed or because the game added goofy skins. It's because the franchise's entire focus changed. Old Call of Duty felt like it was built around making a great shooter first. The campaigns were memorable, the multiplayer was addictive, and the extra modes felt like real additions instead of side hustles. Modern Call of Duty feels like it's built around monetization first. and then the game comes second. Instead of unlocking cool gear by playing, now you're constantly pushed towards battle passes and operator bundles, crossover skins, and limited time store packs. The game doesn't feel like a product I bought, it feels like a storefront I log into. That shift also hurts the franchise's identity. Call of Duty used to be known exactly for what it was, an arcade military shooter with cinematic campaigns and addictive multiplayer. Now it feels stuck between being a serious military game and a live service content machine. One minute it wants you to care about gritty warfare, and then the next it's selling you celebrities and cartoonish cosmetics. It's hard to take the world seriously when the tone changes every 5 seconds. Then there's the annual release cycle. For years, Call of Duty's been pushed out on a almost non-stop schedule, and eventually that catches up with any franchise. There's less room to innovate, less room to polish, and less of a reason to take risks when the next game is already around the corner. Instead of feeling like major new entries, many recent Call of Duty games feel like slightly altered versions of the last one. And maybe, worst of all, Call of Duty lost some of its social magic. A lot of the older games felt memorable because of the people in them. You would stay in lobbies, rematch with the same players, make rivals and friends, and actually remember names of people you ran into. Modern matchmaking feels more like you're being fed into a machine. It's cleaner, more optimized, and somehow way less fun. Call of Duty didn't become bad overnight. It got sanded down, monetized, overproduced, and stretched so far that it stopped feeling special. Now, Call of Duty itself isn't dead. If anything, it's bigger than ever. It still sells millions, still dominates headlines, and still pulls in a massive player base every single year. But being successful and being great are not always the same thing. What made Call of Duty special wasn't just its popularity, it was that it felt like an event. It felt exciting, something you wanted to play or go to. Everyone had a reason for playing the game back then. Now it feels more like a brand than a franchise. A machine built to keep players spending, keep content flowing, and keep the cycle going. And maybe that works for a lot of people, but for those of us who remember what Call of Duty used to be, it's hard to look at what it has become and wonder where the magic went. So, what happened to Call of Duty? It clearly isn't dead, it just forgot what made people love it in the first place.